Alright, well we've got here a fairly jagged mix-up cube, and I'm going to show you the basic move that you need to get it back to cube shape. Now there's a couple of situations that the basic move on its own won't be enough, but it's basically going to be a combination of this move. Very, very simple. You want to find an edge that is in a center position like this, such that the orientation of the edge means that it can just turn like that. So this edge is correctly oriented, and you want to find a center that is directly above it. In fact, it could be here or here, doesn't matter where. And here's the move. Turn this edge that's in the center position just off to there, and then we're going to turn that edge up to this top face, turn that center into its position, and then turn the center down so that when we return that layer, the center is now in the center. And the edge, which we just fixed, is up here nicely positioned. That's it. That's the basic move. So we're just going to go and search for some more. So here's another one here. And as an example of the correct orientation, this is in the center, but you can see that if I was to turn it off like that, it's not correctly oriented. So just turn it around like that, put the center where we need it, turn it off, position up, center in, position down, turn it back. And that's that piece and that piece now which have been fixed as well. And you'll very quickly see this puzzle start to resemble what it should. So I'm going to keep doing that. This to here, up, on, down, back. Don't think it could be easier. Let's do another one. There we go, and already you can see this is starting to look quite a bit more cube-like. Now, you want to keep doing that until you run out of centers and edges in the correct positions. Like eventually you're going to have all centers in the center position. So I've got another one here. By the way, if this center that I needed was somewhere else, all I need to do is just turn it up into its correct position. And now I'm ready to go again. So turn it off, replace it with that center, and return the middle layer. Let's have a look. Have I done all the centers so far? Yep, you can see all the centers are now in the center position. So at this point, there's going to be, as I say, 2 or 3 scenarios. So this will involve at least the first scenario, and that's where you've got at least 4 edge pieces left. In this case, I look like I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So here's what you do for 4. You want to line 4 edges up so that they're all facing the same way. So for example, if I just turn that onto there, you can see those 2 are facing the same way. I'm going to do the same thing and put another one here. That'll be facing the same way. And then I'll go and place this last one just however I want to place it, as long as I end up with 1, 2, 3, 4 going around like that. If I've got extra, that's okay. I'll fix them in the end. Now, once you've got that, all you do is turn it like that, and we're just about dealt with these 4. These edges are now looking better, but the centers are all out. So here's what we do. All we need to do is turn these centers off. Now we rotate this front face, and while we're at it, we might as well rotate the back face as well. Now let's turn the centers back and see what's happened. Now we've got center edge center correct, center edge center correct. That was fairly painless. We turn it around and do the same thing on the other 2 faces. So simply turn those centers off, rotate that edge, do it on the back as well, return the centers, and if you have a look now, you'll see all of this is now nicely positioned so that when I simply do that, those 4 edges have been dealt with. Now here's the situation where we've just got one edge sitting there. Everything else is cube shape. One edge sitting there, and it's kind of twisted. It's rotated around. That's no good. All we want to do is the following. We want to move that into a center position, like so. Turn the face either way. That'll do. And move it back. Now, that obviously hasn't returned it to cube shape, but it's fixed that edge. And you'll also notice that it's left 2 other edges like this, but we know exactly how to fix them. For example, I can use this edge and that center now to put that away in the same fashion with the basic move, like so. Bring that back, and what have we got? 1 center and 1 edge. That's the ideal scenario, is you're always wanting 1 center and 1 edge. So here we go, line up the last ones. put the center on, turn it back, and it's all good. Cube shape again. Okay, well here we are with this scenario, which is two edges that are in place but twisted. What we want to do here is place them, you can work out your own algorithm for this if you like, but basically I place them in this position, front right and front down. Now what I'm going to do is move that into the center, turn the front face either direction, move that back and return the front face. And again, it doesn't matter if I turn the front face the same direction the second time, as long as I return it to where it was. Now what that's done is, if we have a look, it's gone center out of position, edge out of position, center out of position, edge out of position. And you remember we started with two edges only out of position, which was the problem. We know that as soon as we have an equal number of edges and centers out of position, it's all good. So I can just use this one and perhaps this center here, turn that up, and before I do that, I'll orient my edge correctly. Edge off, center on, return middle layer. And this is all just this basic move. So these other scenarios are just working out how to get it back so that we can do the basic move. Last one, replace it with the center, turn them back, and that has returned to cube shape. Alright, now having got it back to cube shape, what we want to do is look to see whether the centers are in their correct position. And you'll use your corners as a guide, but it's the standard color scheme, and so we know that white and yellow really shouldn't be next to each other. So we need to get the yellow down to here. Now at the moment I don't care if the green goes there, I just would like to get the yellow down here. So what I'm going to do is hold the puzzle like this, and I'm going to think that I'm going to flip this edge here. So to do that, I'm going to turn the edge into that position, and that will mean this center and the other center, and the yellow one, remember, is the one I want to flip. When I turn that face 2 turns, you'll notice the edge itself has rotated, it hasn't moved out of position, but these two centers have now swapped. And I can now turn that layer back, and if we look at things now, we'll notice that the yellow is opposite the white. So it's as simple as that. Now I need to go and find out what about these middle layer centers. So I'm going to start with white, red. I know that red, if red is there, then blue needs to be there. So let's go ahead and get the blue center to there first. In actual fact now, it's only the blue and the green that need to switch positions, but I'll switch the blue and the orange first. So we turn them to there, rotate and turn that back, and now I'll switch the blue and the green like so, and now I've got white, red, blue. The next one should be orange, so I'll switch the orange and the green as a last step. And that has now placed my centers in their correct position. From here on in, we want to solve it like a 3x3x3 cube, and there's a couple of surprises that will probably happen at the end, but for now, use your favorite method to do that. I'm just going to use the placing all the edges first. So I've got a white green sitting here. I'll move my white blue around, place that one, a white red here. So I'll put that one into its position, and the white orange is here, so let's place that one. Okay, so those 4 edges are done. Let's go and place some of these middle ones. So here's an orange blue. Put that in. Got a green red here, so I'll turn him around and put him in, or her, as the case may be. I've got all yellows on the top now, so I've got to get one of these out, so I'm just going to move that out of its position, and I might as well place that as the last one. So let's go and do that. Okay, so that's 3 edges in. I'm now going to look at this 4th one, go ahead and place the 2 edges in the back opposite position. So here's my 4th edge. So I'm saying, what are these 2 here? What do they need to be? So one of them is already in position. That's the yellow red. I'd like to get the yellow blue into its position, which is here. It needs to go to this position and it needs to flip. So I'm just going to turn it around, use this, and make sure I can flip this one. like so, turn it back into position, so that fourth edge is still undone, but these two at the back are done, and that now will leave me either with this situation or in a 3 cycle. So if it's a 3 cycle, I've got these 3 last edges needing to cycle around, I'll just complete that. If it's like this, I've got 1 in position and I've got these 2 that need to swap, and so the way to deal with that is simply to turn this upper face 1 turn and then resolve these 2 back ones. So first of all, I note that the yellow blue needs to go back here, so I'll involve these 3 edges and place the yellow blue to there, just like that. And when that happens, the yellow red, which is the one that belongs over here, is now in that middle position, so I can now turn its position around, put the yellow red on and turn that back into position, and of course return this white edge down to there. Now what do we have now? We have a 3 cycle, so the yellow green to there, the green orange to here, the yellow orange to here. So I'll go ahead and place those last 3 using a 3 cycle like so, and you'll see that all of the edges are in position. All the yellow edges are done, all the white edges are done, all the middle edges are done. That's actually done, but it's flipped. So this is one of the little scenarios that we can encounter when placing the edges. I'm glad it's happened. How can we get out of this flip? Well, you remember that when we were dealing with centers, swapping centers, we actually ended up flipping an edge. So that's exactly what we're going to do here. We're going to turn that edge into that position and flip it. The problem you'll see, of course, is that my centers are now switched, which I don't want. And so to deal with that, I'm going to switch them back by now putting in this position a piece that doesn't matter if I flip it, which of course is another center. So I've replaced it with a center, turn that back like that, and you'll see the centers that were switched are now in their correct positions. When I turn that center back to its position and then turn this back to its position, that edge is now correctly flipped, and all of the centers are still where they should be. So at this point we've dealt with that. The only thing that's happened is we've got 1, 2, 3 edges that are out of position, but that's very, very easy to deal with, because these 3 edges will always just cycle home using something like, you just figure out which one is the one that looks weird. This one looks good because it's next to a center, this one looks good because its color is next to a center, so this will go to here, and the one that doesn't have any sticky color next to its correct center will be the 3rd piece that I involve. So I'm just using a move like that, and that has placed all of those edges, and it's dealt, of course, with the flipped edge problem, and all of our edges are correctly placed now. So from here, I now want to solve it as I would solve the corners for a Rubik's Cube. Use whatever method you like. I'm going to use the corner piece series to put them into place, and so I'm looking for a corner that will roll into position like this white, blue, red. So in this time I'm using a corner piece series that goes like this, and that places that one into position. The beauty of this is I don't care which face I get done first. I just look for a corner that will go and carry out the appropriate corner piece series. There's another one. And of course, if I can't find a corner that will actually roll, that's okay. I just look for one that will go across a diagonal. So as an example, we've got the yellow, orange, blue corner. Where does that need to go? No, that needs to go there. So that's a terrible example. Ignore me. What about that one needs to go there? That's no good. White, green, orange. That needs to go there. That's in position, and that's in position. So I can't even do that. So what do? If I've got no corners that will roll, none that will go across a diagonal into their position, well, for me the easiest thing is just to use any 3 of these and do a corner piece series. Doesn't matter what I do, I just want to move some of those out of their position to create a corner that will roll or cross the diagonal. So here we go, we've created an orange, yellow, green that will now roll into that position. So I'm going to hold the cube like that. Piece movement is like so. and that places that one, which I think should leave us with 4 to go. 1, 2, 3, 4. No, I can't really count. That's 5, I think. Yep. So I'm going to do the red, white, green down to here. I'd like a third piece in that position. That's done, so I'm just going to move a dodgy piece into that position and proceed. And of course when I'm done, you'll see that's the corner I wanted to place. I'll undo the setups. I'm going to take a stab and say there will be 4 corners left now. 1, 2, 3, 4. I think I'm right about that. So I'm going to try and find one that will roll or go across the diagonal. And again, I don't reckon there is one that will easily do that. So what else can I do? Another thing that I can do is this corner here needs to go in that position. If I was to set up and just turn that face like that, I could see whether this corner would be able to go across the diagonal to that position. And it kind of can, but because I need to go with that piece movement, that doesn't quite help. But if I turn it another turn, now I've got the white, orange, blue that can roll into that position. And so that's what I'm going to do. These 3 corners are the go, and so I'll carry out that corner piece series. And just remember to undo these. I'll see that because the colours won't match up. And we'll have one of a couple of situations, I suspect. This situation would be this corner in position but twisted, this corner and this corner needing to swap. This is one of the scenarios, and this obviously can't happen on a normal 3x3 cube, but it certainly can on this one. So as soon as you land with either 2 corners left and they need to swap, or 3 corners left and 2 of them need to swap, there's no point solving one of the corners because you're going to have to do something to get out of this. Let me go through now what that something is. Well, we've got one set of swapped corners and no sets of swapped edges, and so we need to create a set of swapped edges. And the way we're going to deal with that is to carry out the following. I'm going to do one of these and you'll need to do 4.5. I'm actually going to do 4.5, but I'll show you one first. So here we go. So I've done a standard edge piece series, front, right, prime, front, prime, right, and then turned this in. And then I'm going to do the opposite edge piece series. So this time I'm going to go right, prime, front, right, front prime, and then turn that layer again. Now that is one of the 4.5 we need to do. So let's do it again. Let's do a second one. So we do that edge piece series, turn the middle layer 45 degrees, and then do the opposite and turn the middle layer 45 degrees. So we've now done 2 of them. Let's go again. As you can see, it's super simple. That's 3 of them. There's 4, and so I said 4.5, so that means we've now only got just this one edge piece series remaining. So I'll turn that and right towards me and then undo those things, and then remember that there was always this middle layer turn after it, and as soon as we complete that you can see that it's brought it back to cube shape. It's got this corner which I think was somewhere else from memory, and what we'll notice when we look up the top is that we've got these 2 edges are in position, but these 2 edges are both flipped and swapped, and that's what we were trying to create. So that's how to get out of that problem. All we need to do now is put back those edges. If you have your own favourite method for just swapping and flipping these 2 edges without disturbing corners, fantastic, do that. I'm not that smart, I just want to basically use these other things. Now because I've got 2 swapped edges, if I normally had that on this sort of cube, I would be turning that upper face 1 turn and replacing these edges, and that's what I'm going to do. I don't like to think too much, and so this suits me just fine. And having done that, these edges are back, and what we'll notice now is that it may appear that we haven't fixed the problem, but we actually have. This edge is still in position. These edges now are flipped, but they are not swapped. So how can we flip those two edges? Alright, well, we're going to use these three pieces. We're going to take each of these edges out of their positions and put them back flipped. So to do that, I always want to turn one of them onto the piece that I don't want to flip first and carry out an edge piece series. Just like that. Now I want to think that one's got to go back there, but I don't want to turn it directly up. I want to turn its position across and then put it into its position and then undo. And you can see for yourself that that has flipped those edges. Okay, why do we do all this? Because we had two swapped corners. Let's have a look what's going on now. All the edges are back. It hasn't really actually disturbed the corners that much. So I'm now going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 corners remaining. Let's go and place this one. So I could go down here. I'll need to put a third corner in that position. So I'll just use that one. Carry out this corner piece series. Undo the setup moves and take stock of what we've got left. We've got 1, 2, 3 corners left. Let's have a look. This one's out of position, this one's out of position, and that one's out of position. So we started this with 2 swapped corners. We've now got ourselves to being able to have a 3 cycle of corners, which of course is precisely what we need to finish the job. So here's a corner that will roll. I'm going to have a look and see that this red here is going to come across the diagonal and land on the top face, and that tells me that my third piece will be in the red face, and I need the colour in the red face, which happens to be green, to be in that position before I start. So this is a nice little setup. That's all I need to do, and I've now got these 3 pieces ready to cycle. And that's completed that, and of course I did this setup. Better undo that, put it back. You can see that everything is where it should be, and our Whit Eden and Oscar's Mix-Up 3x3x3 is solved.